Marcus Johnson never imagined that a phone call in Dutch would change his life forever. A black widowed mechanic from Detroit, a desperate CEO from the other side of the world, and a plea that broke his heart. Please, stay with me. When love blooms, where we least expect it, is it worth risking everything? This is the story of how an ordinary man became an extraordinary woman's salvation, and discovered that sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as impossibilities. Get ready for an emotional journey that will make you believe in the power of second chances. The wrench slipped from Marcus Johnson's oil-stained hands as the phone rang for the third time. Not now, he thought, wiping his forehead with the back of his sleeve. The old Chevy's engine lay spread before him like a patient on an operating table, and he was deep in surgery. Johnson's Auto Repair, he answered, cradling the phone between his shoulder and ear, while his hands continued working. Silence, then a voice speaking in Dutch. Marcus froze. His heart skipped a beat after 3 years of secretly learning the language through late-night apps, a desperate attempt to escape the crushing loneliness after Sarah's death. He understood every word. "Hello, is this Marcus Johnson, the automotive engineer?" The woman's voice was crisp, professional, with a hint of desperation bleeding through her composure. I'm just a mechanic, ma'am," Marcus replied in English, his voice uncertain. His hands trembled slightly as he set down his tools. No, please don't hang up." The urgency in her voice made him pause. "My name is Helena van der Berg. I'm the CEO of Van der Berg Automotive in Amsterdam. We found your technical analysis on the European Auto Forum. Your solution to the hybrid transmission problem, it was brilliant." Marcus felt his world tilt. 3 years ago, during those sleepless nights after Sarah's funeral, he'd found solace in online technical forums, sharing ideas under the username DetroitGears42. He'd never imagined anyone actually paid attention. "I need your help, Mr. Johnson. Our company is facing bankruptcy. Thousands of jobs are at stake. And you might be our only hope." Marcus stared at his reflection in the cracked mirror of his small office. Oil streaks marked his dark skin like war paint, and his brown eyes held the weariness of a man who'd seen too much loss. At 42, he felt older than his years. "Dad, you okay in there?" Amara's voice called from the main garage. His 17-year-old daughter had been helping him after school, dreaming of college while watching her father struggle to make ends meet. "Yeah, baby girl, just thinking." Helena's words echoed in his mind. She'd explained how their revolutionary electric engine design had a fatal flaw that their entire engineering team couldn't solve. But Marcus had seen the problem immediately, a miscalculation in the torque distribution that he'd encountered years ago in a much smaller scale. His phone buzzed, a text from Helena. "Mr. Johnson, I know this sounds impossible, but would you consider a video call? I need to show you something." Marcus looked around his modest shop. Faded motivational posters peeled from the walls, and the cash register held maybe $300 on a good day. This was his reality. This was safe, but Sarah's voice whispered in his memory. "Marcus, baby, you're too smart for this small world. Promise me you'll dream bigger." His fingers hovered over the phone. One call could change everything, or destroy the fragile stability he'd built for Amara. "Dad," Amara appeared in the doorway, her intelligent eyes, so much like her mother's, studying him with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Maybe he had, the ghost of possibilities he'd buried with his wife. The laptop screen flickered to life at midnight. Marcus had waited until Amara was asleep, not wanting to explain what might turn out to be nothing. His hands shook slightly as Helena's face appeared on the screen. She was beautiful in an understated way. Sharp cheekbones, platinum blonde hair pulled back severely, ice blue eyes that seemed to see everything, but it was the vulnerability hidden beneath her professional mask that caught him off guard. "Mr. Johnson, thank you for agreeing to this call," Helena began, her Dutch accent adding a musical quality to her precise English. "I'll be direct. Our company is 3 weeks from bankruptcy. Our latest model, the Eco Vanguard, has a critical failure in its transmission system. Every prototype has failed stress testing." She shared her screen, showing him technical diagrams that made his pulse quicken. Marcus leaned forward, his engineer's mind immediately seeing patterns and problems. "Here," he said, pointing to a section of the blueprint, "your torque converter is fighting against your regenerative braking system. It's creating a feedback loop that's burning out your transmission." Helena's eyes widened. "Our chief engineer spent 6 months trying to identify that exact issue. How did you see it in 30 seconds? Because I made the same mistake 10 years ago on a hybrid bus project, nearly killed the whole program." Marcus felt a familiar spark, the joy of solving complex problems that had been dormant for too long. "Mr. Johnson, Marcus, would you consider coming to Amsterdam just for a week? I'll cover all expenses, pay you a consultation fee that's substantial." The number she mentioned made Marcus's breath catch. It was more than he made in 6 months. "I can't just leave my daughter, my business. Bring her," Helena interrupted. "Amsterdam is beautiful in spring. Consider it a working vacation." The hope in her eyes was dangerous. It made him want to believe in impossible things. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in the Amsterdam airport, feeling like an imposter in his borrowed suit. Amara clutched his arm, her eyes wide with wonder at the foreign language swirling around them. "Dad, I can't believe we're actually here," she whispered. Neither could he. The past 14 days had been a whirlwind of passport applications, arrangements with his neighbor to watch the shop, and long phone calls with Helena, discussing technical specifications that had reignited his passion for engineering. A woman in a crisp business suit approached them, holding a sign with his name, but it wasn't Helena. This was her assistant, explaining that Miss van der Berg was in an emergency board meeting. The ride to the hotel gave Marcus time to process the magnitude of what he'd agreed to through the car window. Amsterdam looked like a fairy tale, narrow houses leaning against each other like old friends, canals reflecting the afternoon sky, bicycles everywhere. "Mr. Johnson," the assistant handed him an envelope. "Mrs. van der Berg asked me to give you this." Inside was a handwritten note in elegant script. "Marcus, I'm sorry I couldn't greet you personally. The board is challenging my decision to bring you here. Some people have small minds about what expertise looks like. Don't let them make you smaller than you are. See you tomorrow. Helena." That evening, as Amara slept in the adjoining hotel room, Marcus stood at the window looking out at the city lights reflecting on the canal. His phone buzzed. "How was your flight?" Helena's voice was softer than in their professional calls, tinged with exhaustion. "Long, but worth it, I think." He surprised himself with his honesty. "Marcus, can I ask you something personal?" His heart rate picked up. "Sure. Why did you stop engineering? Your solutions are brilliant, but you've been fixing cars in Detroit for how long?" The question hit deeper than expected. "Life happened. I got married young, needed steady income. Then Sarah got sick, and later, after she died, I just needed something safe." Silence stretched between them across the digital divide. "I'm sorry for your loss," Helena said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I understand about needing safety. I've been playing it safe for so long, I almost forgot what it feels like to take risks." Something shifted in that moment. A recognition of shared wounds, shared fears, Marcus found himself saying. "Maybe we're both ready to stop playing it safe." The Van der Berg Automotive headquarters rose from the Amsterdam business district like a glass cathedral, all clean lines and impossible angles. Marcus adjusted his tie nervously as he and Helena walked through the pristine lobby. "The board meeting starts in 10 minutes, Helena murmured, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "Some of them are skeptical about bringing in outside consultation." Marcus had seen that look before. The barely concealed surprise when people realized the automotive expert was a black man from Detroit. But Helena's confidence in him was becoming his anchor. The boardroom was intimidating. 12 stern faces around a mahogany table that probably cost more than his annual income. Helena took her place at the head, gesturing for Marcus to sit beside her. "Gentlemen, may I present Marcus Johnson, the engineer I told you about." An older man with steel-grey hair and cold eyes. Helena had warned him about board member Hendrik Voss. Leaned forward. "Ms. van der Berg, with respect, our company is facing its greatest crisis. Is this really the time for social experiments?" The words hung in the air like poison. Marcus felt familiar anger rise in his chest, but Helena's hand briefly touched his under the table, a gesture of solidarity that steadied him. "Mr. Voss," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm, "your Eco Vanguard prototype fails because your engineering team is thinking inside the box you built for them. Sometimes the best solutions come from people who've never been inside that box to begin with." He stood and walked to the presentation screen, taking control of the room with quiet authority. "Your transmission failure isn't a design flaw. It's a philosophy problem. You're trying to force European engineering principles onto American hybrid technology. It's like trying to speak Dutch with an English grammar structure." For the next 30 minutes, Marcus broke down their problem with the skill of someone who'd lived it, solved it, and transcended it. He watched skepticism gradually transform into attention, then into something that looked suspiciously like respect. When he finished, the room was silent. Finally, Hendrik Voss cleared his throat. His And you believe you can fix this? Marcus met his gaze steadily. Sir, I don't just believe it, I know it. Give me access to your prototype, and I'll have a solution by end of week. The vote was unanimous. As the board members filed out, Helena remained seated, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. That was impressive, she said. You sound surprised. No, she replied, her ice-blue eyes warming. I sound proud. The Vanderberg research facility at night felt like a spaceship, all humming machinery and soft blue lights. Marcus had insisted on working late, claiming he did his best thinking when the world was quiet. Helena had surprised him by staying too. You don't have to babysit me, Marcus said, looking up from where he was elbow-deep in the prototype's transmission housing. I'm sure you have CEO things to do. Helena laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd heard from her. CEO things, is that the technical term? She'd traded her business suit for jeans and a simple sweater, and with her hair down she looked younger, more approachable, less like the intimidating executive who commanded boardrooms and more like a woman. Hand me that torque wrench, Marcus said, then paused. Please, I keep forgetting you're my boss. I'm not your boss tonight, Helena said, passing him the tool. Tonight I'm just Helena, and you're just Marcus, two people trying to save a company. As the hours passed, their conversation meandered from technical specifications to personal stories. Helena told him about her divorce 2 years earlier, a marriage that had crumbled under the weight of her ambition and her ex-husband's inability to accept her success. He wanted me to be smaller, she said, unconsciously echoing her earlier note, to fit into his idea of what a wife should be. Marcus looked up from his work. I can't imagine you small. Their eyes met across the engine bay, and something electric passed between them. Not just attraction, though that was definitely there, but recognition. Two people who'd been forced to diminish themselves in different ways, finally seeing each other clearly. Tell me about Sarah, Helena said softly. Marcus's hands stilled on the wrench. She was sunlight. Even when she was dying, she was trying to take care of everyone else. Amara gets that from her, the need to fix the world. She sounds wonderful. She was. And she would have liked you. The admission surprised them both. Why, Marcus considered the question seriously, because you see people for who they really are, not who you think they should be. Sarah always said that was the rarest gift. Helena moved closer, ostensibly to look at his work, but her proximity made Marcus's pulse quicken. He could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that made him think of spring mornings. Marcus, yeah, thank you for taking this risk, for believing in this. The this seemed to encompass more than just the engineering project, and they both knew it. It works. Helena looked up from her morning coffee. Certain she'd misheard, Marcus stood in the doorway of her office, grease-stained and exhausted but radiating triumph. What works? Everything, the transmission, the hybrid system, the regenerative braking. It all works. Perfectly. Helena set down her cup with trembling hands. Are you certain? I've been testing it all night. The prototype just completed a full stress test without a single failure. Marcus's grin was infectious. Helena, we did it. Your company is saved. She stood slowly, as if sudden movement might shatter this impossible reality. The board meeting is in an hour. Can you present the solution? Already prepared. But Helena, Marcus's expression grew serious. There's something else. Her heart stopped. What? Your head of engineering, Dr. Backer. He's been sabotaging the project. The words hit her like a physical blow. That's impossible. Klaus has been with the company for 15 years. The miscalculations weren't accidental. Someone with deep system knowledge was introducing subtle errors that would cause failures under stress testing. I found his digital fingerprints all over the modified code. Helena sank back into her chair, the betrayal cutting deep. Klaus Backer had been her mentor, the man who taught her the technical side of the business when she'd inherited it from her father. Why would he? Money. There's a competitor acquisition offer on your server. Backer was promised the head engineering position at the new company if your business failed. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Klaus's subtle undermining of her decisions, his resistance to outside consultation, his convenient unavailability during critical project phases. I have to fire him immediately, Helena said, reaching for her phone. Marcus caught her wrist gently. Helena, look at me. She met his eyes, seeing strength and concern there. You're not alone in this anymore. We'll handle it together. That simple word, we, changed everything. For 3 years since her divorce, Helena had carried every burden alone, made every difficult decision in isolation. Having someone stand with her felt like coming home to a place she'd never been. The board meeting was a revelation. Marcus presented his solution with the confidence of a man who'd found his calling again, while Helena watched Klaus Backer's face grow paler with each technical detail that exposed his sabotage. When the evidence of betrayal was laid bare, the room erupted in chaos. But through it all, Marcus remained calm, steady, an anchor in the storm. The solution is elegant and will save the company millions, Marcus concluded, but more importantly, it will preserve every job and position Van der Berg as the leader in hybrid technology. The unanimous approval was immediate. As the board members filed out, discussing implementation timelines and production schedules, Helena found herself alone with Marcus. "How can I ever thank you?" she asked. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Have dinner with me tonight, not as CEO and consultant, just as Helena and Marcus." Her heart raced. "Is that wise?" "Probably not," Marcus admitted. "But I've been playing it safe for 3 years, and you've been doing it even longer. Maybe it's time we both took a real risk." The restaurant Helena chose was intimate and warm. Tucked away in a quiet corner of the Jordan district, candlelight danced across the brick walls, and the soft murmur of conversation created a cocoon of privacy. "I can't remember the last time I had dinner without discussing quarterly projections," Helena confessed, twirling her wine glass nervously. Marcus smiled. "I can't remember the last time I wore a tie without an engine exploding on me first." They'd both dressed carefully for this not a date that felt exactly like a date. Helena wore a deep blue dress that brought out her eyes, while Marcus had borrowed a jacket from the hotel concierge that actually fit his broad shoulders. "Can I ask you something?" Helena said. "Your daughter, she's remarkable. How did you manage to raise someone so confident and brilliant while dealing with everything else?" Marcus's expression softened. "Sarah always said that children don't need perfect parents. They need real ones after she died. I stopped trying to be superhuman and just focused on being present. Some days that meant crying together. Other days it meant teaching Amara to change oil. The important thing was showing up. You're a good father, Marcus." "I try, though bringing her to Amsterdam to watch her dad fall for a Dutch CEO wasn't exactly in the parenting handbook." The admission hung between them. Helena felt her breath catch. "Fall for," she repeated softly. Marcus met her gaze directly. "Helena, I'm too old and too tired to pretend these past few days. You've reminded me what it feels like to be seen, really seen, not just as a mechanic or a widower or Amara's dad, but as me." Helena's composure cracked. "Marcus, I can't. My life is here. Your life is in Detroit. This was supposed to be temporary." "Was it?" Marcus leaned forward. "Because the way you look at me doesn't feel temporary. The way you trusted me with your company, with your secrets, with your hope. That doesn't feel temporary either," she wanted to argue, to list all the rational reasons why this was impossible. Instead, she found herself saying, "I've never felt this way about anyone, not even my ex-husband. What way? Like I could be myself completely, and it would be enough. Like I don't have to choose between being successful and being loved." Marcus reached across the table, covering her hand with his. His touch was warm, calloused from years of honest work and completely right. "Helena, what if we didn't have to choose? What if there was a way to build something together?" The possibility hung between them like a bridge. Neither was quite brave enough to cross, but as their fingers intertwined, Helena felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope for a future that included more than just corporate success. "I leave in 3 days," Marcus said quietly. "I know. Will you think about it? About us?" Helena nodded, not trusting her voice, because thinking about it wasn't the problem. She'd been thinking about little else since that first video call. The problem was believing it could actually work. But as Marcus walked her back to her apartment, his hand warm in hers, Helena began to wonder if sometimes the most logical choice was to follow your heart. Marcus's hotel room felt smaller with each passing hour. His suitcase lay open on the bed, half packed with clothes that smelled like Amsterdam air and possibility. Tomorrow he and Amara would fly back to Detroit, back to the safe, small world he'd built from grief and necessity. His phone buzzed, a text from Helena. "Can we talk, please?" She was waiting in the hotel lobby, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Her usually perfect composure was cracked, vulnerability showing through like light through broken glass. "I couldn't sleep," she said, as they walked along the canal behind the hotel. "I kept thinking about what you said at dinner. Amsterdam at night was magical, lights reflecting on the dark water. The gentle sound of bicycles on cobblestones, the sense that anything could happen in a city this beautiful." "Helena, No, let me say this, she interrupted, stopping to face him. I've been CEO of this company for 5 years. I've made million-dollar decisions without blinking, negotiated with world leaders, built an empire from my father's modest legacy. But you terrify me. Marcus felt his heart breaking. Because I'm not good enough. Because you're everything. Helena's voice cracked. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be a woman instead of just a corporate machine. Because you see me. Not the CEO, not the heiress, just me, and that's something I didn't think existed. They stood facing each other on the canal bridge, the space between them charged with 3 years of loneliness on both sides. But it's impossible, isn't it? Marcus said quietly. You have a company to run. A life here. I have Amara, my business. Everything that keeps us anchored. Helena stepped closer. What if it doesn't have to be impossible? What do you mean? The company needs a head of engineering. Klaus is gone, and we need someone brilliant. Someone who understands both the technical and human sides of innovation. Her eyes searched his. Stay, Marcus, not just for a few more days, stay. The offer hung in the air between them, beautiful and terrifying. Helena, I can't just abandon my life in Detroit. Amara's got friends, school. Amsterdam has excellent international schools. She's brilliant. She could get into any university in Europe. And your garage. You could have a state-of-the-art facility here. Work on projects that could change the world instead of just fixing what's broken. Marcus turned to look out over the canal, his mind spinning. Everything she was offering was beyond his wildest dreams. Professionally, personally, emotionally, and us, he asked quietly. Helena moved to stand beside him, their shoulders touching. I don't know what us looks like yet. I just know that I can't imagine my life without you in it. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. Stay and risk everything. Amara's stability, his own security, the chance that this magical week might not survive the reality of daily life, or go home to safety and spend the rest of his life wondering, what if? I need to talk to Amara, he said finally. Helena nodded. Of course, whatever you decide. These have been the best days of my life in years. Marcus turned to face her fully, seeing the scared, hopeful woman behind the powerful CEO facade. Helena, yes, these have been the best days of my life, period. When he kissed her, soft and tentative under the Amsterdam stars, it felt like coming home and starting an adventure all at once. Dad, you're pacing like a caged tiger. Amara looked up from her laptop where she'd been video chatting with friends back home, showing off the view from their hotel window. At 17, she had her mother's intuitive ability to read people and her father's direct way of addressing problems. Marcus stopped his restless movement and sat heavily on the bed beside her. Baby girl, we need to talk. About Helena. Amara's tone was matter-of-fact, without surprise. How did you... Dad, please, I've watched you light up every time she calls. You've smiled more in the past week than you have in 3 years. Plus, you've been checking your phone every 30 seconds like a teenager with a crush. Marcus rubbed his face, feeling suddenly transparent. It's complicated, Amara. Because she's white, because she's rich, because she lives in another country, or because you think loving someone else means betraying Mom. The questions hit like gentle arrows, each one finding its mark. Marcus stared at his daughter, amazed by her wisdom. All of the above, he admitted. Amara closed her laptop and turned to face him fully. Dad, can I tell you something Mum said to me before she died? Marcus's chest tightened. They rarely talked about Sarah's final days, the pain still too sharp even after 3 years. She made me promise not to tell you until you were ready to hear it. She said, Baby girl, your daddy's going to think he has to stay broken forever to prove he loved me, but love isn't a finite resource. Him finding happiness again won't make what we had less real. Tears Marcus didn't expect burned his eyes. She said that. She made me swear that when you found someone worth loving, I'd tell you it was okay to let yourself be happy. Amara's voice was gentle but firm. Dad, Helena is worth loving, and you deserve to be happy. Marcus pulled his daughter into a hug, overwhelmed by her maturity and grace. What about your life, your friends, your school, everything you'd be leaving behind? Amara pulled back to look at him. Dad, I'm 17 in a year. I'll be going to college anyway. Did you see the University of Amsterdam when we drove past it yesterday? It's got one of the best international business programs in Europe. And honestly, she grinned, learning Dutch sounds a lot more interesting than senior year calculus. You'd really be okay with staying. I'd be okay with you taking a chance on happiness. Mom would be too. That night, Marcus lay awake staring at the ceiling, his daughter's words echoing in his mind. Sarah's voice, filtered through their daughter's wisdom, gave him permission he hadn't realized he was seeking. At 2 a.m., he gave up on sleep and opened his laptop. An email was waiting from Helena. Sent just minutes before. Marcus, I know you need time to think, and I respect that, but I wanted you to know. I've never asked anyone to stay before. I've never wanted anyone to stay before. Whatever you decide, these days with you have been a gift I'll treasure forever. Marcus stared at the screen for a long moment, then began typing his reply. Helena, some decisions are too important to make alone. Can we talk tomorrow, all three of us? Ma. Her response came immediately, as if she'd been waiting. Yes. Always. Yes. The cafe Helena chose was perfect, quiet enough for serious conversation but bright and welcoming, with a view of the canal that made everything feel possible. She arrived first, nervous energy making her fidget with her coffee cup. When Marcus and Amara walked in together, Helena was struck again by their bond, the easy way they moved around each other, the obvious love and respect. If she was going to be part of their lives, she'd need to earn Amara's approval, and that terrified her more than any board meeting ever had. Mrs. van der Berg, Amara said, extending her hand formally. Thank you for meeting with us. Please, call me Helena, and thank you for being willing to talk. They settled at a corner table, and Helena found herself being studied by eyes that were remarkably like Marcus's, but with a sharpness that was entirely Amara's own. Dad told me you offered him the head of engineering position, Amara said without preamble. That's a big opportunity. It is, Helena agreed. Your father is extraordinarily talented. He could revolutionize automotive engineering if given the resources. And what about you personally? What do you want from him? The direct question caught Helena off guard. She glanced at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. I want everything, Helena said honestly. I want to build something with your father, professionally and personally. I want to see where this connection leads us, but not at the expense of your relationship or your happiness. Amara leaned back, considering. My mum died when I was 14. Dad's been alone ever since, throwing himself into work and parenting, like those were the only two things that mattered. Helena felt her chest tighten at the pain in the girl's voice. But here's the thing, Amara continued. I've watched him this week. He's not just happy. He's alive again. That's worth something. It's worth everything, Helena said softly. The question is, what happens when the honeymoon phase ends? When you remember you're a CEO and he's just a mechanic? When the novelty wears off? The skepticism in Amara's voice was protective and completely justified. Helena took a breath, choosing her words carefully. Amara, I know how this looks from the outside, rich white woman, working-class black man, different countries, different worlds. The statistics are against us. But your father isn't just a mechanic to me. He's the most intelligent, genuine, strong man I've ever met. He saved my company, yes, but more than that, he saved me. She turned to Marcus, letting him see the truth in her eyes. I spent 2 years after my divorce thinking I was broken, that I could be successful or loved, but never both. Your father showed me that was a false choice. He sees my ambition as strength, not a flaw. He makes me want to be better while accepting me exactly as I am. Amara looked between them, some internal calculation happening behind her intelligent eyes. Finally, she smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Mom always said Dad needed someone who could keep up with his mind and his heart. I think you might be able to do both. Helena felt tears she hadn't expected. Does that mean It means I think you should both stop being scared and see what happens, Amara said. Life's too short to play it safe forever. Marcus reached across the table to take both their hands, his daughter's and Helena's, linking the three of them together. So we're really doing this? He asked, wonder in his voice. We're really doing this, Helena confirmed. But even as she said it, she couldn't shake the feeling that their biggest challenges were still ahead. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the gleaming research facility of van der Berg Automotive. Watching his latest prototype undergo its final test, the engine hummed with perfect precision, every component working in harmony, much like his life had become. The board is asking about timeline for full production, Helena said, appearing beside him in her familiar power suit, though her hair was softer now, less severely pulled back. 2 months, Marcus replied confidently. We'll revolutionize hybrid technology and save the company millions in the process. We did it, Helena said softly, wonder still in her voice after all these months. Yeah, we did. But Marcus wasn't just talking about the engineering breakthrough. They'd done something much more complex. They'd built a life together against all odds. The transition hadn't been seamless. There had been cultural adjustments, language barriers, moments when the gap between their worlds felt impossible to bridge. The Amsterdam business community had been skeptical of Helena's American pet project, while some of Marcus's friends back home couldn't understand why he'd chosen Amsterdam over Detroit. But they'd weathered every storm together. Amara had thrived at the International School of Amsterdam, her Dutch improving daily while she prepared for university applications. She'd become Helena's unofficial cultural translator, helping bridge the gap between American directness and European formality. "There's something I need to tell you," Helena said, her voice carrying a nervous edge that made Marcus turn to face her fully. "What is it?" She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small velvet box, holding it like it might explode. "Helena," Marcus breathed. "I know this is unconventional," she said quickly. "I know women aren't supposed to propose, and I know we've only been together 6 months, but Marcus, I can't imagine my life without you. I don't want to imagine it." Marcus stared at the ring box, his heart hammering against his ribs. "You saved my company," Helena continued. "But more than that, you saved me. You showed me that love doesn't make you smaller. It makes you infinite. You make me infinite." She opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant band. Nothing flashy or ostentatious, just perfect. "Helena van der Berg," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Are you asking me to marry you?" "Marcus Johnson," she replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm begging you to marry me, please, Twerk, stay forever this time." Marcus took the ring from the box, studying the inscription inside. "Forever and always." "Shh, you know what Sarah used to say," he said softly. Helena's face grew concerned. "What?" "She said the best love stories don't end. They just begin new chapters." He slipped the ring onto his finger. Where it fit perfectly. "Helena van der Berg, I would be honored to marry you." When he kissed her, it was with the passion of a man who'd found his future and the gratitude of someone who'd been given a second chance at happiness. "There's just one condition," Marcus said against her lips. "Anything. Amara gets to plan the wedding, fair warning. She's got very strong opinions about everything." Helena laughed, the sound bright and joyful in the sterile research facility. "I wouldn't have it any other way," as they held each other in the middle of Marcus's greatest professional triumph. Surrounded by the fruits of their collaboration, Helena realized that sometimes the most important calls come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, when a CEO begs someone to stay, it's not about business at all. It's about love, hope, and the courage to believe in impossible things. Their story was just beginning.